Hello, everyone. I'm Billy.
And I'm Kamraun. Welcome to the HorseFrog podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors and the creators of the Malazan Brotherhood.
And today we'll be discussing Book 3, Chapter 19 of Memories of Ice, a novel of the Malazan Books of the Fallen. This is part 1 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it is most definitely not a replacement to reading the books. Both Billy and I know this to be the best fantasy story ever written and want to share our love of the series with you.
We will be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion, and there will be spoilers for those that have not read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective books. And Steve, still just really good job, man.
Quick warning, today's episode contains adult topics as well as sorceress violence, and thus is not suitable for children. Also, through this episode, it may appear that I am biased against Silver Fox. And you would be right. I'll try not to let it taint my commentary too much. I apologize in advance.
I like that bias. I'm going to chime in a little bit on that one. I may share a little bit of that at points, but I will throw some levity on the other side there a little bit, so we'll get there. Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we really appreciate that, and you can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at HorseFrogProductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we'd really like to hear from you, and we really mean that. Send any feedback or comments to contact@HorseFrogProductions.com. You know, on that point, we've been hearing from certain people quite a bit. There's a lot of people slacking out there. Just throwing that out there. I know there's people listening to us every week, and we haven't heard from them. So send those thoughts in.
Yeah, send them in, man. HorseFrogProductions.com.
This week we have, in addition, we received a message from Jeff regarding the ongoing discourse about Rake and Brood not wanting to be in control of an empire. Quote, I wanted to add my 2 cents to what you and Gruntle said about Rake and Brood not wanting to rule Darujistan and leaving the Malazans to deal with them. Rake and Brood are good rulers not because they care about their people, but because they care about all people. Ruling and only caring about your in-group creates out-groups, which creates second-class citizens and leads to genocides. As you alluded to, while they could be good rulers of Darujistan, they would always be outsiders/conquerors. Unless a people have autonomy and have a say in things, there will always be some discontent, whether real or imaginary, and the most obvious target is outsiders and rulers. The city or country as a whole would have a better chance of long-term peace if they are led by humans, not a Tist-Andi demigod or an ascendant, warlord, half-bargist. End quote. Thanks for reaching out, Jeff. This gave me some additional things to think about. On the topic of in-groups versus out-groups, can we truly say that they care for all people? I agree that they care for those that they are responsible for, and that's not necessarily only inclusive of their own race. But see how they were defending the cities of Genebakis against the Malazan incursion. That would be a scenario where I consider the Malazans an out-group at that point in time. Thus, I contend they will do their best for those they are sworn to protect, and those outside of that circle are subject to their wrath.
Yeah, I agree with you on that wholeheartedly, Kamraun, because that's exactly how I see it. They don't want to be in control of people. They'll stand up for what they stand up for, but yeah, they're going to stand for their sides, and if people are wrong, like you said, if people are messing with the folks who are sworn to protect you, they will pay.
So I did send this message back to Jeff. Jeff responded to the email. Quote, those are good points, but I do see it a little differently. And when I used cares for people, that probably wasn't the best word to choose. It seems to me that Rake wants what is best for people and understands his capabilities and limitations on how he can try and make that world a reality. And I realized I don't know all that much about Brood. I don't have anything to add with him.
Right.
I don't think Rake considered the Malazans an out-group, even when he was fighting them. The one battle we saw, Pale, he sat there doing nothing to the Malazans for 2 years, trying to avoid a fight with his presence. When the Malazans, Taishrin et al., finally attacked, I recall that Rake attacked the mages, and then Taishrin ended up diverting Rake's attack into the Malazan soldiers. Similarly, in Darujistan, while Rake had his assassins try to stop the bridge burners, once Pearl arrived, Rake didn't chase them. He dealt with what he perceived to be the bigger danger to the city. Same thing with the dragon demon and the tyrant at the end. Each time Rake makes a move, it seems like he is trying to do the most good for everyone, including people that he may currently be fighting.
The greater good.
Yes. Back to my original point, I think Rake is a good ruler because he does a good job assessing what will be the best for most people. He thought that Pale remaining independent would be better for them, but once the city fell, he knew the Malazans had experienced rebuilding cities in a way that was relatively fair for everyone, with the exception of the rich and the nobles, yes. R.I.P. Similarly, in Darujistan, he defended the city from the greatest threats, demons and tyrants released by the Malazans. But if the Malazans want to take over the organization of the city, he doesn't see that as a negative for the people of Darujistan. End quote. I think this is really well said, and after the clarification, I agree with the points that Jeff is making here.
Okay.
How about you?
I'm not sure about, in particular, Rake, because I do see him as he's the only person that's possible in this universe to be possible, wanting the greater good to truly be true, and he functions that way. So the thing with him is I don't think he would have a problem letting the race be wiped out if it was, in fact, for the greater good of the survival of reality.
I guess that's part of the calculus, right? Is if the majority would survive. I mean, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
You can't win everything.
No, you can't. He has a greater good for creation. That includes, to me, even the extinction of people such as his own race, like the Testandi or himself or something like this. He can see this being a bad thing for people. If it means getting rid of these kind of people, then I think he's down for that too. He's that kind of guy. He knows where to put the knife.
Old Testament type.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a complex topic.
It's a very complex topic.
Everybody making their points. I see all the different sides of this. I am inclined to agree that Rake is generally a good person.
Yes, from a universal standpoint.
Yeah, and probably isn't just going to go out and murder people for no reason. He generally, it has to be moved to action. But when he does act, it is potentially with serious consequences.
I imagine, what is it? When Tyrone gets Benicio del Toro with the briefcase, it's when he moves. When he functions quick. I'm sorry. And you remember Snatch when who's the one that sees the guy with the briefcase? It's Tyrone.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he moves quick.
Yes.
And he moves real quick.
But he's a rally driver. Of course he's quick.
He is a rally driver, yes.
Well, thanks again for reaching out, Jeff. I appreciate the discourse.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, Chapter 19, Part 1. Krupp said, "We're being followed." Silver Fox turned in her saddle, eyes narrowing. She sighed, then said, "My two Malazan minders." She hesitated, then added, "I doubt we'll dissuade them." Krupp smiled. He said, "Clearly, your preternaturally unseen departure from the camp was less than perfect in its sorcerous efficacy. More witnesses, then, to the forthcoming fell event. Are you shy of audiences, lass? Dreadful flaw, if so." Silver Fox said, "No, Krupp, I am not." Krupp asked, "Shall we await them?" Silver Fox said, "Something tells me they prefer it this way, at a distance. We go on, Daru. We're almost there." Krupp scanned the low grass-backed hills on all sides. They were, barring the two Malazan soldiers 1,000 paces behind them, entirely alone. He said, "A modest army, it seems. Entrenched in gopher holes, no doubt." Silver Fox said, "Their gift and curse. As dust in all things, the Talanai mass." Even as she spoke, their mounts carrying them along at a slow trot, shapes appeared on the flanking hills. Gaunt wolves, loping in silence. The Talan A, at first only a score to either side, then in their hundreds. Krupp's mule brayed, ears snapping and head tossing. He cried out, "Be calmed, beast!" startling the animal yet further. Silver Fox rode close and stilled the mule with a touch to its neck. You would think Krupp would have better control over this beast by now.
I know, but the problem with Krupp is what is and is not an act. It's like so much of this, I cannot distinguish him from the act, and that's part of the problem.
I think he is incredibly inept at handling this animal.
Okay, that could be. I know he's almost fallen off of it a couple times, at least I'm assuming so. I guess we are seeing a person who struggles with this animal.
Yeah. They approached a flat-topped hill between two ancient, long, dry riverbeds. The channels wide, their banks eroded to gentle slopes. Ascending to the summit, Silver Fox reined in and dismounted. Krupp hastily followed suit. The Talan A remained circling at a distance. The wolves numbered in the thousands now, strangely spectral amidst the dust lifted into the air by their restless padding. Arriving behind Silver Fox and Krupp, and ignored by the Talan A, the two Marines walked their horses up the slope. One said, It's going to be a hot one. The other said, plenty hot. The first Marine said, good day to miss a scrap, too. The second said, that it is. Wasn't much interested in fighting Teniscowry in any case. A starving army's a pathetic sight. Walking skeletons. Krupp interrupted, curious image that, all things considered. The two Marines fell silent, studying him. I wonder if the joke is lost on them, or if they're just playing dumb again.
I think they're just playing dumb. With him, they play dumb. And I love that plenty hot. These sound like Texans. Plenty hot day out there. It's going to be hot. It's like, yep.
They kind of remind me of Teeter on Yellowstone. Real rough women. You know, that's the female hand on the ranch. Did you ever get to that part of the series? Nobody can understand the way she talks.
I've not met her because I've only seen like 2 episodes of the show with my dad once. I've never watched any more.
Oh, okay.
Dude, it's Dallas. It's Dallas.
Is it? I never watched Dallas, so.
Dude, it's Dallas. It's essentially Dallas. I'm sad that I've gotten older. I realize these things. I'm like, crap, that's just Dallas. It's Dallas, just a little meaner. It's just, more 2025. Now, don't get me wrong. I have my own soap operas I watch. Don't get me wrong. I have my own stories.
Okay, this is funny.
That was not one.
At Fry's in Dallas, there were, I think it was Wednesdays and Mondays where I was there in the mornings. Mm-hmm. Retta, one of my employees, she was there at the same time. And she had to have her soap operas on. So, I got embroiled in the storyline of the Young and the Restless or the Bold and the Beautiful. Dude, I can't remember which one it was, but Retta and I were sitting there, we'd be talking about it during our shift.
It's the same show, dude. It's the same show.
Ridiculous.
I told you, I'm watching that one with my wife. It's just like, it's G-rated. It's Little House on the Prairie. It's when the heart calls. It's the same thing. And I'm sitting there going, I bet that person's doing this. That's Rascal. I'm always talking trash. I get sucked up in them real quick. So it's like, all right.
It's hilarious because I dislike them by their nature, but somehow I got drawn into the story on this one. It's so funny.
Well, here's what's funny. No matter how it is, we all like episodic stuff. I mean, we all have serials that we like, whether it's medical drama, cop drama, fire drama, fantasy drama, whatever. They're all the same thing. It's essentially the same thing. Then Marvel, I've always told you, as much as I love comic book stuff, and it's great movies. It's not great cinema. It's fun movies because it's telenovelas and tights, man. Mm-hmm. And I've always known that about the Justice League. I love the Justice League. And on my stuff, it's the same thing, man. And so we all love this stuff. It's just shifted.
They're human stories, right?
They're human stories. Yes, it's the same stories we all deal with, but it's just the setting. You pick your genre. I love it. So it's like we all have our own stories, dude.
It's something to gossip about that's not real life, I guess. I guess we all just like to talk about what's going on. Yeah.
It is fun water cooler talk.
In a dry tone, Silver Fox said, "Excuse my interrupting the small talk. If you would all take position behind me. Thank you. No, a little further back. Say 5 paces at the very least. That will do. I prefer no interruptions, if you please, in what follows." Krupp's gaze, and no doubt that of the women flanking him, had gone past her, to the lowlands surrounding the hill, where squat, fur-clad, desiccated warriors were rising from the ground in a sea of shimmering dust. A sudden, uncannily silent conjuration. He thought, as dust in all things. But the dust had found shape. Uneven ranks, the dull glimmer of flint weapons, a rippling of gray, black, and russet brown amidst the betel tones of withered, polished skin. Skull helms, a few horned or antlered, made of every slope and every basin a spread of bone, as of stained, misaligned cobbles on some vast plaza. There was no wind to stir the long, ragged hair that dangled beneath those skull caps, and the sun's light could not dispel the shadow beneath helm and brow ridge that swallowed the pits of the eyes. But every gaze was fixed on Silver Fox, a regard of vast weight. Within the span of a dozen heartbeats, the plain to all sides had vanished. The Talani mass, in their tens of thousands, now stood in its place, silent, motionless. The Talani were no longer visible, ranging beyond the periphery of the amassed legions. Guardians, kin, hood forsworn. Silver Fox turned to face the Talani mass. Silence. This was such a powerful scene for me. We've only seen the Talani mass appear in relatively small numbers so far, with the exception of Pran Cole and his clan at the beginning of the book. To see them all assemble together in the tens of thousands, then stand here in eerie silence for an overlong period of time would be very impactful.
Absolutely. And this is a big core memory. All this stuff with Silver Fox and the IMS, total core. But I think for some reason, it reminds me of something, and I'm very specific here. Lord of the Rings, and I believe it's in Return of the King. And not just in the book, but we see this in the movie, of course, where I think they cut the scene out of the movie, except in the extended version, where they make that pass through somewhere where there's some warriors. Don't they have to go through some weird pass with some undead warriors? You know what I'm talking about? Aragorn
Yes.
and them have to go through. So does this, I'm reminded of that, but it's not in the same way, but just anytime we get these undead warriors of any stripe, but especially in big numbers, it all ties back to that great master scene, which is that's been a core memory since childhood. These kind of things just kind of, I love how, in a way, I guess, Erikson plays up on the own archaeology of our own fantasy and science fiction minds and lays these things down like this. And I wonder if it comes from the same sources as ours.
I don't know. The eeriness of this image of everything deathly still and utter silence, because the way they've described the Talani Mass, they just stand there, not moving at all. You could imagine it just being like a statue.
Yeah.
And to have that many thousands of skeletons just staring at you in silence, that would be a heavy weight, as it said.
Yeah, very unsettling.
I think it would be critical to really draw the scene out longer than you would want it to, just in silence, just to emphasize the eeriness of it.
Oh, you need to make about 5 passes over the crowd of IMAS and in various states of their decays, and just kind of like here's one with a few, and we flash back to the crowd of Krupp and Silver Fox and the two Marines back there. You'd flash back to the crowd's bigger crowd real quick, but it happened almost instantaneously, but you could see multiple passes being shown to show the enormousness of this crowd of IMAS.
Mm-hmm.
I hope someone brought that potato salad, though.
Okay. Krupp shivered. The air was pungent with undeath. The gelid exhalation of dying ice filled with something like loss.
Gelid.
He thought, despair, or perhaps after this seeming eternity, only its ashes. There is all about us ancient knowledge. That cannot be denied. Yet Krupp wonders, are there memories, true memories, of enlivened flesh and the wind's caress, of the laughter of children? Memories of love? When frozen between life and death, in the glacial in-between, what can exist of mortal feeling? Not even an echo, only memories of ice and no more than that. Gods below, such sorrow. I don't know if that's true, because earlier in the book, when Tool and Kilava had their little exchange, he seemed genuinely upset by that thing.
Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tool's reaction is different from others because he is now clanless and no longer tied to this hive mind and stands alone. Now like a kind of not normal, but more like us than like them in his individuality. So I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but I think that's why Tool has that depth. When I see the crowds of IMAS in a weird way, I think they're sharing that burden amongst themselves. And if there's one alone like Tool, he has nobody to carry it but himself. It makes him more, I don't know what it does, but like I said, it just kind of makes him seem more like us.
Mm. So maybe what Krupp's talking about is there any memory that's good, or is all they feel sorrow? Maybe that's more of what he's talking about.
That could very well be, because, I mean, it would be nothing but sorrow. Even if there were moments of joy to the IMAS, it's like the eternal wakefulness these things seem to share as they're constantly in pursuit of an enemy, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Figures approached the slope before Silver Fox. Weaponless, robed in furs from ancient, long-extinct beasts. Krupp's eyes focused on one in particular, a broad-shouldered bonecaster, wearing an antlered skull cap and the stained fur of an Arctic fox. With a shock, Krupp realized that he knew this apparition. He thought, we meet again, Pran Cole. Forgive me, but my heart breaks at the sight of you, at what you have become. Pran Cole was the first to address Silver Fox. He said, "We are come to the second gathering." Silver Fox grated, "You have come in answer to my summons." That's not a great start to this conversation. Just going to throw that out there.
Meow.
Yeah. Not good.
It's like, gee whiz. It's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, you've come to my summons. It's like, oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
A little tact, please.
Pran Cole slowly tilted his head and said, "What you are was created long ago, guided by the hand of an elder god. Yet, at its heart, IMAS. All that follows has run in your blood from the moment of your birth. The wait, summoner, has been long. I am Pran Cole of Kron Talan IMAS. I stood with Cruel to attend your birth." Silver Fox's answering smile was bitter. She said, "Are you my father then, Pran Cole? If so, this reunion has come far too late for us both."
Real quick, something I just related about Tool. How is he shorn from the Kron Thailand if Kron himself is here?
That's a good question. I think the Kron were a group of tribes, and Tool is the last remaining that took the vow from his tribe.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly, that's how it was worded.
Thank you.
When he talked about it.
Okay. I was kind of like, wait a minute, mentioning being alone, but it's like, wait, we have some more Kron to land. So I think that's right. His particular group, that's why he is shorn, I guess, is what, was he called shorn as well?
No, I think that's a very specific word that's used later.
Where we're going, but
yeah. Despair flooded Krupp. This was old anger, held back overlong, now turning the air gelid and brittle. A dreadful exchange to mark the first words of the second gathering. Billy.
I'll stop.
Pran Cole seemed to wilt at her words. His desiccated face dropped, as if the Bonecaster was overcome with shame. Krupp thought, "No, Silver Fox, how could you do this?" Pran Cole whispered, "Where you then went, daughter, I could not follow." Silver Fox snapped, "True, after all, you had a vow awaiting you. A ritual. The ritual, the one that turned your hearts to ash. All for a war. But that is what war is all about, isn't it? Leaving home. Your loved ones, indeed, the very capacity of love itself. You chose to abandon it all. You abandoned everything. You abandoned..." She cut her words off suddenly. Krupp closed his eyes for a brief moment, so that he might in his mind complete her sentence. He thought, "You abandoned me." How long has she been alive? 6 months? A year? I think she's really overblowing this absent father scenario quite a bit.
I agree, but what's weird was something in that wording about this stuff with, about them leaving, like, it's almost like the ritual that they did to create her was created before they took their oath. And she's been waiting this long for this, but she can't be because she wasn't formed until just a few months ago, 6 or 8 months ago. Let's just call it a year. But again, she has old lives in her. I want to understand. I don't get it, though.
She's acting like a teenager, very petulant.
Yeah.
And no consideration for what the Talani Mass... I mean, to be fair, I hate that I'm having to defend the Talani Mass here because I'm kind of on the side of the Jagut in that whole scenario.
Right.
But looking at this from an outsider's perspective, they're obviously really torn up by having taken this vow and where they are today. And they have hundreds of thousands of years of experience behind them now. And then she's complaining about 6 months to a year of perceived abandonment when she was actually part of a tribe. She had a mother there that she herself rejected, that she could have been bonding with this whole time. Come on now.
There is that. That's a funny thing. This is where another interesting layer I'm just now thinking about is the fact that, she's got these other people inside of her, but none of them are related to the IMAS, technically. I mean, I guess Tattersall would be because I'm assuming the humans are somewhat descendants from the IMAS.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of these things like this. The Silver Fox entity is not just these three. She's also part of Telen. So is that where this ancientness comes from? That she's born with all this ancient knowledge inside of her? Maybe she's, so for her, even though it's been a short time physically, it has been millennia at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. So it's the stuff going on in her head's got to be overwhelming.
I always perceived her past life experience being that of the souls that were immediately drawn into her, not some outside influence.
Yes, I'm the same. And I'm going to bring this up a little bit later, but it's one in particular that I always tend to mistake her for somebody that she's not. And that's what I got to remember.
Okay. Pran Cole's head remained bowed. Finally, he raised it slightly and asked, "Summoner, what would you have us do?" Silver Fox said, "We will get to that soon enough." Another Bonecaster stepped forward then. The rotted fur of a large brown bear rode his shoulders, and it seemed the beast itself had reared behind the shadowed eyes. He said, "I am Okral Lorn. All the Bonecasters of Kron Talan Imas now stand before you. Agkor Chum, Bendel Home, Ranag Ilm, and Brold Chud. Kron as well, who was chosen as war leader at the first gathering. Unlike Pran Cole, we care nothing for your anger. We played no role in your creation, in your birth. Nonetheless, you cling to a misapprehension, Summoner. Pran Cole can in no way be considered your father. He stands here accepting the burden of your rage, for he is what he is. If you would call anyone your father, if you so require a face upon which hatred can focus, then you must forbear, for the one you seek is not among us. The blood had slowly drained from Silver Fox's face, as if she'd not been prepared for such a brutal condemnation flung back at her by this bonecaster. She stammered, Not among you? Okral Lorn said, Your souls were forged in the warren of Talon, yet not in the distant past, the past in which Pran Cole lived. Not at first, at any rate. Summoner, the unveiled warren of which I speak belonged to the first sword, Onos Tulan. Now clanless, he walks alone, and that solitude has twisted his power of Talon. Silver Fox asked, Twisted? How? Okral Lorn said, By what he seeks, by what lies at the heart of his desires. Silver Fox was shaking her head, as if striving to deny all that Okral Lorn said. She asked, And what does he seek? Okral Lorn shrugged and said, Summoner, you will discover that soon enough, for Onos Tulan has heard your call to the second gathering. He will, alas, be rather late. Krupp watched as Silver Fox slowly returned her gaze to Pran Cole, whose head was bowed once more. Krupp thought, in assuming the responsibility for her creation, this bonecaster offered her a gift, a focus for her anger, a victim to stand before its unleashing. I do remember you, Pran Cole, there in my dream world. Your face, the compassion in your eyes. Would I the courage to ask, were you, I mass, once, in truth, all like this? Another pair was emerging from the ranks. In the silence that followed Okral Lorn's words, the foremost one spoke. I am A. Estos, of the Logros Talan I mass. The furs of Arctic wolves hung from the bonecaster, who was taller, leaner than the others. Silver Fox's reply was almost distracted. I greet you, A. Estos. You are given leave to speak. A. Estos bowed in acknowledgement, then said, Logros could but send 2 bonecasters to this gathering, for the reason I would now tell you. He paused, then, as Silver Fox made no reply to that, he continued. Logros Talani Mass hunts renegades, our own kin, who have broken from the vow. Crimes have been committed, Summoner, which must be answered. I have come, then, on behalf of the clans of Logros. Silver Fox shook herself, visibly wrenching her gaze from Pran Cole. She drew a deep breath and straightened and said, You said that another bonecaster of Logros is present. The wolf-clad Talani Mass stepped to one side. The figure standing behind him was hugely boned, the skull beneath the thin, withered flesh bestial. She wore a scaled, leathery cloak of skin that hung down to the ground behind her. Unadorned by a helm, the broad, flat skull revealed only a few remaining patches of skin that each bore but a few strands of long, white hair. A. Estos said, Olar Ethiel, first among the bonecasters. Alaint, the first soul taken. She has not journeyed with me, for Logros set for her another task, which has taken her far from the clans. Until this day, we among the Logros had not seen Olar Ethiel in many years. Alaint, will you speak of success or failure in what you have sought? Before we get her response, I have a couple reminders here. We have seen this bonecaster before. An undead dragon was seen in the Nascent and used by Culp to help the Salanda escape. The dragon went into a warren of fire. Putting the pieces together, we can assume that that was Olar Ethiel and she went into Talon.
Okay. Nice. But here, real quick thing I just caught out of that stuff. So she's the first of the Soul Taken.
Correct.
That means so she predates Animander and his Soul Taken. I find that interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And this Elaint business, I've only seen that term Elaint used toward Rake, correct?
I don't remember all the usages that we've had so far, just dragons generally.
But just dragons in general, because I think, remember Solana.
So yeah, Solana I've heard referred to as Elaint.
Yeah, from Raced.
Okay.
He was spanking her, remember?
Dude. Separately, at the end of Deadhouse Gates, Pust was putting on a show and maintained the subterfuge until Olar Ethiel, who was watching him, was satisfied and sembled into an undead dragon, then flew away.
I remember that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's only been mentioned in the books twice thus far, once in Gardens of the Moon, as Lorne was recalling the Battle of Kartul, and then in the dramatis persona of Deadhouse Gates. Interestingly, her name does not appear at all for the rest of Deadhouse Gates, only in the dramatis persona.
Huh.
And finally, her title, The First Soul Taken, it kind of makes sense that she would be interested in what happens with the Path of Hands fiasco during Deadhouse Gates, because I imagine she would want to remain as one of the most powerful Soul Taken, if not the most powerful Soul Taken, and not have her power usurped by some upstart that wins the rat race to the end finish line of the Path of Hands. It's cool that we finally get to have a conversation with Olar Ithil instead of her just being around peripherally.
Yeah. Is she also the same one that we saw flying her way through the houses, through the Azaf tiles that he would see, that Perrin saw? Remember, he saw the giant dragon when he was in the house.
Was that an undead dragon?
Undead dragon?
Yeah, it might have been her there, too.
I think it was an undead dragon. It's got to be her.
Yeah.
Because if she's the first of the soul takers, she'd be way more aware of the paths and whatever that we don't know anything about or whatever. I got no idea. I'm just winging it here, dude.
I guess she's been alive long enough and dealing with arcane stuff that she would be aware of the Azath and what's going on there. Now, getting access to it, that's a whole other story. I don't know how she'd get in.
Yeah.
Olar Ithil tilted her head, then addressed Silver Fox. Summoner, as I neared this place, you commanded my dreams. Silver Fox said, I did, though I knew not who you were. We can discuss that another time. Tell me of this task set for you by Logros. Olar Ithil said, Logros sent me in search of the remaining Talani mass armies, such as we knew from the first gathering. The Ifail, the Kurlum, the Bentract, and the Orshan. Silver Fox asked, and did you find them? Olar Ithil said, the 4 remaining clans of Bentract Talani mass are on Jakuruku, I believe, yet trapped within the Warren of Chaos. I searched there, Summoner, without success. Of the Orshan, the Ifail, and Kurlum, I report my failure in discovering any sign. It follows that we must conclude they no longer exist. Silver Fox was clearly shaken by Olar Ithil's words. She whispered, so many lost? A moment later, Krupp saw her steel herself. She continued, Olar Ithil, what inspired Logros to dispatch you to find the remaining armies? Olar Ithil said, Summoner, the first throne found a worthy occupant. Logros was commanded so by the occupant. Silver Fox said, an occupant? Who? Olar Ithil said, a mortal known then as Kellanved, Emperor of Malaz. Silver Fox said nothing for a long moment, then said, of course, but he no longer occupies it, does he? Olar Ithil said, he no longer occupies it, Summoner, yet he has not yielded it. Silver Fox asked, what does that mean? Ah, because the Emperor didn't die, did he? Olar Ithil nodded and said, Kellanved did not die. He ascended and has taken the throne of shadow. Had he died in truth, the first throne would be unoccupied once more. He has not, so it is not. We are at an impasse. I wonder what this means. The spot is reserved by someone that doesn't technically exist anymore?
Could Shadow Throne still command the armies of the Talan from the throne?
See, that's what I don't understand. Can you not occupy 2 thrones at the same time? It sounds like no.
Yeah, I guess it's true. But since he didn't yield it, he didn't have to yield it either.
Right.
I don't see why would he. From what we know of that old boy, why would he give it up?
Exactly.
Even if he can't use it, he's not going to give up something that somebody else could use.
Yeah. It's like soft locked. It's a glitch in the rules.
Yeah.
It seems like. They need to patch that out. Silver Fox said, and when this event occurred, the result was ceasing to serve the Malazan Empire, leaving Lasine to manage on her own for the first crucial years of her rule. Olar Ithil said, they were uncertain times, Summoner. Logros Talani mass was divided unto itself. The discovery of surviving Jagut in the Jag Odan proved a timely, if short-lived, distraction. Clans among us have since returned to the Malazan Empire service. Silver Fox asked, and was the schism responsible for the renegades the rest now pursue? Krupp thought, her mind returns, sharply honed. This is fell information indeed, renegades among the Talani mass. Olar Ithil said, no, Summoner. The renegades have found another path, which as yet remains hidden from us. They have, on occasion, employed the Warren of Chaos in their flight. Krupp thought, chaos? I wonder to whom do these renegade Talani mass now kneel? No, muse not on it. Still a distant threat, Krupp suspects. All in its own time. Who else could they be serving but the crippled god?
That would be my assumption, because he seems to be able to shield them from that chaotic nastiness. Are the IMAS affected by that, though?
If chaos is now imposing itself on Kurald Galain, as we saw, then I suspect it is also affecting Talon as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would have thought, too.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, this is where there is some unusual question, though, with their Talon, remember? Their Talon is not typical Talon. It's something that they have created separately by their vow. I'm always confused by this stuff.
No. So when I say Talon, I'm talking about the Warren of Fire, the elder Warren that they use. Yeah.
They employed. Okay.
Silver Fox asked, what soul-taken shape do you assume, Olar Ithil? Olar Ithil said, when I veer, I am as undead twin to Tiam, who spawned all dragons. Dude, when I read that, I thought, this is so cool.
Yeah.
We have a description of what Olar Athil looked like while veered in dragon form.
That is wild. Dude.
Quote, hugely boned, with skin like dry shark hide. Its wingspan dwarfed even that of the Son of Darkness, who has within him the blood of the Draconian goddess, and the wings had nothing of the smooth, curving grace. The bones were multi-jointed in a crazed pattern, like that of a crushed bat wing, each knobbed joint prominent beneath taut, cracked skin. The dragon's head was as wide as it was long, like a viper's, the eyes high on its skull. There was no ridged forehead. Instead, the skull sloped back to a basal serration, almost buried in neck and jaw muscles. A dragon roughly cast, a creature exhaling an aura of primordial antiquity. End quote. Given she said she was an undead twin to Tiem, we can assume Tiem looked roughly like this as well.
Agreed. I would have to assume just not with the messed up looking wings maybe, but just a live version of this. So yeah, a little healthier looking of this, but yeah, it's bigger than Rake, dude.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to the dragons that we envision that Rake turns into, or Silana is. Any of the other dragons that we've seen so far, like Rake fought another one that was brown.
And I'm like you, I imagine them as like, it's my typical D&D, sleek, graceful, cool looking dragons, you know, head, real sleek, long necks, breathing out fire or power of some sort. That's what I meant. This thing looks nothing like this. It's like you said, a rough cast version. It's the first stamping. It's like, here's your first one. Okay.
Yeah. Nothing more was added. The thousands of Talani mass stood motionless, silent. A score of heartbeats passed in Krupp's chest. Finally, he cleared his throat and stepped closer to Silver Fox, then said, "It appears, lass, that they await your command, whatever command that might be." A reasonable, resolute... Silver Fox swung to face him and grated, "Please, no advice. This is my gathering, Krupp. Leave me to it." Krupp said, "Of course, my dear. Humblest apologies. Please do resume your hesitation." She made a sour face and said, "Impudent bastard." Krupp smiled. Silver Fox turned back to the awaiting Talani mass and said, "Pran Cole, please forgive my earlier words." Pran Cole raised his head and said, "Summoner, it is I who must ask for forgiveness." Silver Fox said, "No. Okral Lorn was right in condemning my anger. I feel as if I have awaited this meeting for 1,000 lifetimes. The expectation, the pressure." Krupp cleared his throat and said, 1,000 lifetimes, Silver Fox? Scry more closely those who stand before you." And I thought, yeah, read the room. I'm so disappointed in her here. I had such high expectations for this gathering as well, and have been left disappointed in her behavior.
Yes. Fourth time through, fourth time disappointed by her behavior. Yes.
The record remains unbroken.
It does. It does. Our talking it through doesn't help. It doesn't change my opinion of her. I'm sorry, of her handling of this situation.
I have to wonder at why he wrote this way. What reason he had for building it up and then making her act so petulant.
Redacted.
Silver Fox said, "Thank you. That's enough, Krupp. Believe me, I am quite capable of castigating myself without any help from you." Krupp murmured, "Of course." Silver Fox settled her gaze on Pran Cole once more and said, "I would ask of you and your kin a question." Pran Cole said, "We await, Summoner." Silver Fox asked, "Are there any Jagut left?" Pran Cole said, "Of pure blood, we know of but one who remains in this realm. One who hides not in the service of a god or in the service of the houses of the Azath." Silver Fox asked, "And he will be found at the heart of the Panyan Daman, won't he?" Pran Cole said, "Yes." Silver Fox said, "Commanding Kanchain Shamal undead. How can that be?" Krupp noted the hesitation in Pran Cole as Pran Cole replied, "We do not know, Summoner." Silver Fox said, "When he is destroyed, Pran Cole, what then?" Pran Cole seemed taken aback by the question. He said, "Summoner, this is your gathering. You are flesh and blood, our flesh and blood, reborn. When the last Jagut is slain," Krupp interjects, "A moment, if you please," edging another step forward. Silver Fox hissed in exasperation, but Krupp continued, "Pran Cole, do you recall worthy Krupp?" Pran Cole said, "I do." Krupp said, "Worthy, clever Krupp, yes? You said you know of but one Jagut. No doubt accurate enough. Nonetheless, saying such is not quite the same as saying there is but one left, is it? Thus, you are not certain, are you?" Olar Athil replied, "Mortal, other Jagut remain, isolated, hidden. They have learned to hide very well indeed. We believe they exist, but we cannot find them." Krupp said, "Yet you seek an official end to the war, do you not?" A susurration of motion rippled through the undead ranks. Silver Fox wheeled on him. She asked, "How did you know, damn you?" Krupp shrugged and said, "Sorrow unsurpassed and unsurpassing. They, in truth, seek to become dust. Had they eyes, Krupp would see the truth no plainer writ. The Talani mass wish oblivion." Silver Fox said, "Which I would only grant if all the Jagut on this world had ceased to exist. For that is the burden laid upon me, my intended purpose. The threat of tyranny removed, finally, once and for all time. Only then could I grant the Talani mass the oblivion they seek. So the ritual demands of me, for that is a linkage that cannot be broken." Okral Lorne said, "You must make the pronouncement, Summoner." Silver Fox said, "Yes," still glaring at Krupp. Pran Cole said, "Your words can shatter the ritual's bindings." Silver Fox's head snapped round. She said, "So easily?" Yet, she faced Krupp once more and scowled. She said, "Krupp, you force into the open an unpleasant truth." Krupp said, "Aye, Silver Fox, but not the same truth as that which you seem to see. No, Krupp has unveiled a deeper one, far more poignant." Silver Fox crossed her arms and said, "And that is?" Krupp studied the sea of undead figures, narrowed his gaze on the shadowed sockets of countless eyes. After a long moment he sighed, and it was a sigh ragged with emotion. He said, "Ah, my dear, look again, please." It was a pathetic deceit, not worth condemnation. Understand, if you will, the very beginning. The first gathering. There was but one enemy then. One people, from whom tyrants emerged. But time passes, aye? And now dominators and tyrants abound on all sides. Yet are they Jagut? They are not. They are human, for the most part, yes? The truth in all its layers? Very well. Silver Fox, the Talani mass have won their war. Should a new tyrant emerge from among the few hidden Jagut, he or she will not find a world so simple to conquer as it once was. There are gods to oppose the effort. Nay, there are mere ascendants. Men such as Animander Rake, women such as Korlat. Have you forgotten the fate of the last Jagut tyrant? The time has passed, Silver Fox, for the Jagut, and thus for the Talani mass. Krupp rested a hand on her shoulder and looked up into her eyes. He whispered, "Summoner, these indomitable warriors are weary beyond all comprehension. They have existed for hundreds of thousands of years, for one sole cause. And that cause is now a farce. Pointless, irrelevant. They want it to end, Silver Fox. They tried to arrange it with Kellanved and the First Throne, but the effort failed. Thus they gave shape to you, to what you would become, for this one task. Redeem them, please." Pran Cole spoke. "Summoner, we shall destroy the Jagut who hides within this Panyan Daman, and then we would ask for an end. It is as Krupp has said. We have no reason to exist. Thus we exist without honor, and it is destroying us. The renegades' Logros Talani mass hunts are but the first. We shall lose more of our kin, or so we fear." Krupp saw that Silver Fox was trembling, but her words were tightly controlled as she addressed the antlered shaman. She said, "You create me as this first flesh-and-blood bonecaster in almost 300,000 years. The first, and it seems, the last." Pran Cole said, "Do as we ask, Summoner, and the remainder of your life is yours." Silver Fox said, "What life? I am neither Revi nor Malazan. I'm not even truly human. It is what all of you do not grasp." She jabbed a finger at Krupp and then the two Marines to complete an all-encompassing gesture. She went on, "None of you, not even Perrin, who thinks... No, what he thinks I will deal with in my own time. It is not for any of you. Talani mass, I am your kin, damn you, your first child in 300,000 years. Am I to be abandoned again?" Krupp stepped back. He thought, again? Oh, gods below. He said, "Silver Fox." Silver Fox shouted, "Silence!" But there was no silence. Instead, a rustling and creaking whispered through the air, and Silver Fox and Krupp swung to the sound, to see tens of thousands of Talani mass lowering themselves to their knees, heads bowing. Olar Athil was the last standing. She spoke. "Summoner, we beg you to release us." With those words, she too settled onto the ground. The scene twisted a knife in Krupp's very soul. Unable to speak, barely able to breathe, he simply stared out at the broken multitude in growing horror. And when Silver Fox gave answer, Krupp's heart threatened to burst. Silver Fox said, "No." In the distance, on all sides, the undead wolves began to howl. One of the Marines swore, "Hood's breath!" Krupp thought, "Aye, theirs is a voice of such unearthly sorrow, it tears at the mortal mind. Oh, cruel, what are we to do now?" Not to beat a dead horse here, but I am so disappointed in Silver Fox. After all this build-up, I expected something more. Instead, I get a child with daddy abandonment issues.
Yeah. And I try very hard to see it from her side. And like you, she becomes across as a petulant little girl, which technically she is.
I struggle with that, though, because she has Tattersail in her, Nightchill in her, Bellardan. Mm-hmm. I really don't know how much of her current persona is influenced by those versus her actually being only 6 months to a year old. Who knows?
Yeah.
She obviously is capable of advanced thought and communication, so I tend to fall on the side that she has matured extra fast as well, but this whole reaction is just really shocking. What's really shocking about it to me, with Tattersail in there, that she has zero empathy for these Talani mass and what they must feel after all this time. It's all about her, me, 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 me. Yeah. And then the cherry on top of all this is her treatment of her mother.
Yeah.
And how she's complaining about being abandoned when the woman that gave birth to her is just thrown to the side and she won't even go talk to her.
Yeah. I'm going to flash to another series here in Dune. Okay, Aelia. Aelia is born fully aware. Sorry, if you've never read Dune, the book's older than I am, which is about almost 60 years old. Shame on you for not reading it. If you don't know this, it's on you. But that stuff with her, remember some of the stuff they showed, though, sometimes she could be childish because she was, in fact, a child, even though she's ancient in mind. So I'm curious if sometimes just no matter what, no matter how old you are when you're born, sometimes being a child physically just comes out and you're just a child. And I'm just kind of curious if that's part of it here.
It just seems so narcissistic to me. I think we're just seeing a narcissistic personality. It's all about her. She doesn't give a shit about anybody else. She's like, what about me? You're leaving me. You abandoned me. I don't like it. That's how it's coming across to me.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Corlat said, one assumes a lack of complexity in people whose lives are so short. Whiskey Jack grinned sourly. He said, if that's meant to be an apology, you'll have to do better, Corlat. Corlat sighed, ran a hand through her long black hair in a very human gesture. Whiskey Jack continued, then again, from you, woman, even a grunt will do. Corlat's eyes flashed. She said, oh? And how am I to take that? Whiskey Jack said, try the way it was meant, lass. I've not enjoyed the last few days much, and I'd rather we were as before, so I'll take what I can get. There, as simple as I can make it. Corlat leaned in her saddle and laid a hand against his arm. She said, thank you. It seems I am the one needing things simple. Whiskey Jack said, to that, my lips are sealed. Corlat said, you are a wise man, Whiskey Jack. The plain before them, at a distance of 2,000 paces and closing, swarmed with Teniscauri. There was no order to their ranks, barring the lone rider who rode before them, a thin, gaunt youth astride a spine-bowed roan dray. Immediately behind the young man, whom Whiskey Jack assumed to be an Aster, ranged a dozen or so women, wild-haired, loosing random shrieks. There was an aura of madness and dark horror about them. Corlat noted his gaze and said, women of the dead seed, presumably. There is sorceress power there. They are the first child's true bodyguard, I believe. And that explains what happened to Boshlane and Corball Broach when they attempted to abduct an Aster. We were wondering where that magic came from.
Yeah, they must be a pretty tough old crowd to fend them boys off.
Yeah, we'll see a little bit of that here, what their power levels are. It seems pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Whiskey Jack twisted in his saddle to examine the Malazan legions formed up behind him 50 paces away. He asked, where's Animander Rake? This mob could charge at any moment. Corlat said, they will not. Those witches sense my lord's nearness. They are made uneasy, and cry out caution to their chosen child. Whiskey Jack asked, but will he listen? Corlat said, he had bet. A roaring sound shattered her words. The Teniscauri were charging, a surging tide of fearless desperation. A wave of power from the women of the Dead Seed physically assailed Whiskey Jack, made his heart thunder with a strange panic. Corlat hissed between her teeth. She said, resist the fear, my love. Snarling, Whiskey Jack drew his sword and wheeled his horse round to face his troops. The sorcerer's assault of terror had reached them, battered at the lines. They rippled, but not a single soldier stepped back. A moment later, his Malazans steadied. And I thought that was very impressive that they held together under that assault.
Absolutely.
I doubt the Panyan forces would have held given they were in the same situation.
I agree wholeheartedly. They would definitely not have stood their ground.
Mm-hmm. Corlat cried, where? My lord arrives in his fullest power. The air seemed to descend on all sides, groaning beneath a vast, invisible weight. The sky darkened with a palpable dread. Whiskey Jack's horse stumbled, legs buckling momentarily before the animal regained its balance. The beast screamed. A cold, bitter wind whistled fiercely, flattening the grasses before the commander and Corlat. Then it struck the charging mass of Teniscauri. The women of the Dead Seed were thrown back, staggering, stumbling onto the ground where they writhed. Behind them, the front runners in the mob tried to stop and were overrun. Within a single heartbeat, the front ranks collapsed into chaos, figures seething over others, bodies trampled or pushing forward in a flailing of limbs. The silver-maned black dragon swept low over Whiskey Jack's head, sailing forward on that gelid gale. The lone figure of an Aster astride his roan horse that had not even flinched awaited him. The front line of the Teniscari was a tumbling wall behind the first child. Animander Rake descended on the youth. An Aster straightened in his saddle and spread his arms wide. He is ready to check out.
Agreed. Very much so.
Huge talons snapped down, closed around the first child and plucked him from the horse. The dragon angled upward with its prize, then seemed to stagger in the air. Corlat cried out, "Gods, he is as poison!" The dragon's leg whipped to one side, flinging an Aster away. The young man spun, cartwheeling like a tattered doll through the air, to plunge into the mob of Teniscari on the far right, where he disappeared from view. Real quick, the image I got from this is a serious moment in the books, but in Tropic Thunder, when Ben Stiller was escaping that camp at the end, there was a scene where the little kid... I
have not seen Tropic Thunder.
Billy. Are you kidding me right now?
I'm not kidding you, dude.
Did you watch Top Gun yet?
No.
Billy, I have 2 X's right here. You got one more. You have to watch Tropic Thunder. It's amazing, dude. Really is. It's so good.
I tried watching it once, and I couldn't get into it, man. I got about 15, 20 minutes into it. I just couldn't take it. And so I just shut it off.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while, but...
well, I don't think it's going to get better.
Yeah, there's a certain type of humor in particular that does not appeal to me at all. I have a few exemptions.
It's like South Park humor, though. That's what surprises me.
I know it. I love South Park, but South Park is different because South Park's at least smart. And Tropic Thunder may be smart. Most screwball comedies I don't like. I like a little more highbrow comedy for some reason. I like to have to think it through sometimes, but there's exceptions to the rules. Don't get me wrong. I mean, South Park being the primary exception to the rule, but I mean, I like old school Animal Houses and Wedding Crashers, but a lot of that other stuff I just can't take for some reason. And I don't know what my comedy is so strange. My like of my comedies. There's no consistency in my comedy.
All right. Riding himself, Animander Rake lowered his wedge-shaped head as he closed on the peasant army, fanged mouth open. Raw, cruel Ghislaine issued from that maw, roiling darkness that Whiskey Jack had seen before, long ago, outside the city in Pale. But then it had been tightly controlled, and more recently, when led by Corlat through the warren itself, again calmed. But now the elder warren of darkness was unleashed, wild. Whiskey Jack thought, so there's another way into the warren of cruel Ghislaine, right down that dragon's throat. A broad, flattened swath swept through the Teniscari, bodies dissolving to nothing, leaving naught but ragged clothing. The dragon's flight was unswerving, cutting a path of annihilation that divided the army into 2 seething, recoiling halves. The first pass completed, Animander Rake lifted skyward, banked around for another. It was not needed. The Teniscari forces had broken, figures scattering in all directions. Here and there, Whiskey Jack saw it turned on itself, like a hound biting its own wounds. Senseless murder, self-destruction, all but came of blind, unreasoning terror. The dragon glided back over the writhing mobs, but did not unleash its warren a second time. Then Whiskey Jack saw Animander Rake's head turn. The dragon dropped lower, a wide expanse clearing before it as the Teniscari flung themselves away, leaving only a half-score of figures lying prone but evincing motion nonetheless, slowly, agonizingly attempting to regain their feet. The women of the Dead Seed. We are going to stop there, and we will finish the chapter out next week. We're stopping on a cliffhanger this week.
Yep.
For standout moments, the appearance of the Talani mass in the tens of thousands, that scene where they all assembled at the same time and were just standing there in eerie silence. Loved it.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. We need to see this. I would love to see this any way I could because it's an amazing scene. Tens of thousands of these fellas.
Finding out that Olar Athiel was the first Soul Taken, and that her Soul Taken form is a twin to that of Tiam.
Dude, that is a major reveal. Because for some reason up until now, I keep thinking of Rake as like the first of the Soul Taken. I assumed for some reason. But no, here we have it. She is the first.
I think where you got that was he was the first Tist Andi to embrace becoming a Soul Taken. I think that's what was said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're probably right. I think you're probably right.
If I remember correctly, it was because Mother Dark turned her back to them, and he went and found another path at that time. I think that's when it happened.
Right.
And as a nerd of Malazan lore, this Olara Thiel being a twin to Tiem, really, it just tickles my my fancy when it comes to learning little details.
It does.
Yeah, that one really, I was super excited to see that, because I never noticed that before. I just thought that was really cool.
And I agree with you, and I think there's a lot to go on with that, because I think this is the same, it has to be, like you said, this is the same undead dragon that's kind of cameoed in the other two books. You know, oh, hey, now we get to meet you. Cool.
Yeah. Silver Fox's immature outbursts and poor treatment of the Talan Imas during the second gathering. Complete disappointment after all the build-up to that meeting.
Agreed. It's just very sad, and I'm like you, I expected a lot better. And I'm curious, as I alluded to this earlier, is having a problem separating Silver Fox from I keep thinking of her as Tattersail, almost specifically.
I don't blame you.
Because that's kind of how I feel like he's been kind of making us, I think he's pointed us that direction.
Yeah.
A lot of this time, making us, but at the same time.
She's the only one that we knew.
But she ain't Tattersail, dude.
Yeah. That's becoming very clear to me.
Yes. Painfully clear, yes. She is not Tattersail, so I'm like very disappointed. So hence my disappointment, because she is not Tattersail.
Yeah. Finding out that the women of the Dead Seed have sorceress power and are Anastra's protectors. That was pretty neat.
I was shocked by that, because I just assumed, I think we've had nothing to tell us otherwise. I assumed these were just a bunch of insane women that did this. And it's like, but I'm curious if they were empowered to do this, or if by doing what they do, their disgusting acts, have they created a power for themselves?
Their minds were probably twisted by the Panyan Seer. That's probably what caused it to happen.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I think that's it too.
Finally, Rake's arrival to the battle with the Teniscari was pretty epic.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, his reaction upon picking up Anaxter and almost physically being hurt by touching him and throwing him. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very cool, because I didn't think that Anaxter would have that power of any sort to hurt Rake at all.
He's unclean. The unclean one.
He is very
filthy.
Very unclean.
He's ready to check out, too. He's just standing there. He's like, basically, take me. He's done with it.
Yeah, very much so. I did not realize that so much until you get to this point of this book here either, how much he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll get him a little more insight into that in the next section.
Yeah.
All right, great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, really good episode.
You got any final thoughts before you drop off here?
Yeah, just the IMS gathering, man, it is always just, in this whole series, certain things just always crop up and stand up a lot. And I know that we're focusing each book at a time, and so things will stand up as they come through, but that has really always stood up and stood out there, because there's a lot of sadness to it. And I love this, but I hate the way Silver Fox handled it. And I kind of want to understand, but I can't, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah, agreed.
Not of the series, of the chapter, this Silver Fox. Maybe she's supposed to be that way. I don't know.
I'm not necessarily criticizing his writing, because I think it's written well.
No.
It's my disappointment with the path the character is taking, because I expected more from the character. It is more of my issue with it.
Yes. It's because I feel like we've been leading up this whole book. We're leading up to this moment in this whole book. Don't you feel that way? And it's like, yeah, here you go. Sorry, I'm going to pick wrong. That doesn't happen in fantasy books a lot of times. They always pick right. Maybe that's what it is.
I expected better from Tattersail. I think we're overweighting how much influence Tattersail has on that I'm going to call her the individual. That individual. Yes. Whatever's making...
Fox.
Yes.
That individual. Them. I'll talk about them that way.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey, we'll see y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at HorseFrogProductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.
Bye.